The White House is walking back President Biden's comments after he called the situation at the border a crisis over the weekend. The administration is also issuing memos out to remove the term illegal alien and replace it with non-citizen or migrant. President Joe Biden is trying to convince some Republicans to support his infrastructure plan. He met with a bipartisan group of lawmakers Monday for the second time to discuss his plan. So far, no Republican senators have endorsed it. And in the fight with big tech, Senator Josh Hawley introducing a second bill targeting big tech. It's to curb big tech's monopolistic power. Tune in to Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. There's new terminology again. The White House ordering the term illegal alien be changed. Customs and border officials are to use non-citizen or migrant instead. Top leaders within the ICE and CBP all got the memos. Troy Miller, acting head of CBP, says in the memo, as the nation's premier law enforcement agency, we set a tone and example for our country and partners across the world. Adding, we enforce our nation's laws while also maintaining the dignity of every individual with whom we interact. The words we use matter and will serve to further confer that dignity to those in our custody. It's part of a push under the current administration to overturn Trump-era policies. In his first day in office, Biden sent a citizenship bill to Congress on January 20th, proposing removing the term alien from federal immigration laws. Immigration advocates say the term illegal immigrant is dehumanizing, while illegal alien conjures up images of UFOs and space aliens. Critics, meanwhile, say the term undocumented doesn't properly convey that such individuals are, in fact, having crossed the border and remain in the U.S. illegally. On the topic of terminology, the White House is walking back President Biden's comments after he called the situation at the border a crisis over the weekend. The Biden administration has long made great efforts to avoid this terminology. Now the White House is making clear there's no change in position, and it says Biden was actually referring to the situation in migrants' countries of origin. Biden made the comment on Saturday while he was talking about his administration's decision to raise the refugee cap. This isn't the first time the White House has backtracked after referring to the border situation as a crisis. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki walking back comments when she accidentally referred to it as a crisis not long ago. Now, speaking of the White House, Biden's still facing pushback and getting bipartisan support for the $2 trillion infrastructure package. He met with a bipartisan group of 10 Congress members on Monday. That's his second bipartisan meeting since announcing his plan. So far, no Republican senators have endorsed it. Biden needs 10 Republican senators to override a filibuster. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell calls the bill a Trojan horse for increasing taxes, debt, and spending. And GOP Senate Whip John Thune tells Fox News that only a small fraction of Biden's proposal is for infrastructure. He says Republicans will support building projects like roads and bridges. Democrats can try to pass a bill without Republicans using the Senate budget process. That's how they passed the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package. They would need all 50 Democrats to do it. But Democrat Senator Joe Manchin stands in the way. He says the spending needs to be paid for. Biden's plan calls for increasing corporate taxes from 21% to 28%. Manchin says he doesn't support that. Meanwhile, Biden may have to modify his plan to get the support he needs from either Manchin or the Republicans. And Republicans plan to outline an infrastructure plan of their own. West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito leading a push to slash the package by more than half, proposing a bill between $600 billion and $800 billion. And last week, Republicans held a press conference airing grievances against the infrastructure package. Wyoming Republican Senator John Barrasso said Americans want safe roads, adding they don't want traffic jams. That's why roads and bridges are what people think about when they talk about infrastructure. But that's not what the president is talking about. And Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville wrote infrastructure should be a bipartisan issue, yet the Biden administration has stuffed their infrastructure proposal full of unrelated partisan priorities. He went on to say, let's have a plan focused on rebuilding roads and bridges, not the Green New Deal. While Republicans are working on a bill to shrink the package, the far left wing of Biden's party introduced a bill to expand his plan. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and other New York Democrats say Biden's $40 billion for public housing in the plan isn't enough, and they want to double it. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Bernie Sanders just unveiled the Green New Deal for Public Housing Act. It would spend $100 billion over the next decade on housing projects. This could make reaching an agreement even harder, as Congress now has more factors to consider. And looking ahead, Democrats are considering splitting Biden's infrastructure plan into two smaller bills. One would target traditional infrastructure, and the other would include policies that Republicans have resisted, including social welfare projects. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi supports this approach and says she wants both bills to pass through the House by August. Now let's turn to big tech. Lots happening there. First up, MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell's new social media platform Frank went live on Monday, but already saw pushbacks. People weren't able to set up profiles to interact on the platform. Lindell suggests the platform is facing cyber attacks from around the world. His comments came in a live stream as a backup plan. The platform is a mix between Twitter and YouTube. Lindell says the core idea of the platform is to uphold free speech, based on the original founding principles of the Judeo-Christian worldview. During the live stream, Lindell also talked about how the United States was founded as a constitutional republic that is in accord with the laws of the divine. The platform welcomes free speech, but also has rules. Profanities and using God's name in vain will not be allowed on the platform, and death threats and pornography are also banned. Speaking of free speech platforms, Twitter alternative Parler is returning to the Apple App Store. In a letter to Congress, Apple says Parler has proposed changes to better detect and moderate hate speech and incitement. Apple says the updated app should be available immediately after Parler releases it. And Parler says it plans to make a comeback on the Apple App Store next week. Apple approved changes to the app that would allow it back on Apple devices. Parler says its return comes after months of communication between the two companies. The social media company has crafted several new safeguards designed to keep it within Apple's policies, while also adhering to the scope protected by the First Amendment. But it said the version of Parler for Apple users will differ from the web-based and Android versions. The Apple version will not show some posts acceptable under Parler policy, but prohibited by Apple. Apple said in a statement that the updated Parler app would become available immediately after the company releases it. The social media site was kicked off major tech platforms in January after the Capitol breach. And now, speaking of big tech platforms, Senator Josh Hawley introducing another antitrust bill aimed at big tech. This would ban Amazon and Google from running an online marketplace and selling goods on that marketplace at the same time. It's called Bust a Big Tech Act and would bar firms such as Amazon from selling Amazon-branded products on Amazon's market, where competitors also do business. Hawley said in a tweet the practice allows Amazon to destroy its competitors. He writes, "No one company should be able to control e-commerce and privilege its own products on the same platform and control the cloud," adding Amazon should be broken up. Amazon has said previously that Amazon and other sellers on the platform complement each other and together create a better customer experience. According to a statement from Hawley's office, the Bust a Big Tech Act would also bar Amazon from simultaneously owning a large amount of cloud computing services that other companies use while running its retail business. Amazon runs Amazon Web Services, or AWS, which sparked controversy earlier this year after deplatforming Parler, while still hosting Parler competitor Twitter. Hawley has been busy in his fight with big tech. He introduced a separate bill last week, also targeting big tech. Titled the Trust Busting for the 21st Century Act, it would target other antitrust issues surrounding big tech. Notably, it would bar mergers and acquisitions by firms that have a market capitalization of more than $100 billion. Now turning to Twitter, Project Veritas's founder James O'Keefe is suing Twitter. He alleges the platform defamed him by claiming that he operated fake accounts on the platform. He filed the lawsuit in the Supreme Court of New York in Westchester County on April 19th. The lawsuit states the false accusation that Mr. O'Keefe operated fake accounts is particularly damaging for Mr. O'Keefe because Mr. O'Keefe is a journalist. As such, his reputation for transparency and accurate reporting is fundamental to his profession. Twitter permanently banned O'Keefe on April 15th without advance notice or an explanation. Shortly after, the social media giant had disseminated a statement to journalists accusing O'Keefe of operating fake Twitter accounts. Twitter did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The lawsuit goes on to argue that Twitter routinely allows similar content to stay on the platform and that the video of Facebook Vice President Guy Rosen outside a residence included no other details about the address of the residence and did not mention that state where the clip was filmed. The lawsuit points to a popular CNN video in which a reporter questions a Trump supporter outside her home about being part of a Facebook group that was allegedly created by a Russian disinformation operation. The video, which has been viewed more than 2 million times, remains on the platform to this day. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.